Howdy folks, Greyhawk 4x4 coming at you again, your resident vintage gamer. It's time for a gaming vlog. Let's roll. Okay, so it has been a while since I did my gaming vlog. Got pretty sick. Apparently when you have multiple groups of people coming over in tight conditions back here, during the cold and flu season, it becomes quite common for everybody to share their germs, and people get sick. So I don't sound very good now, but I didn't sound worth a shit the last few days. So I really couldn't do any videos. So in any case, we're going to get you caught up on the first edition campaign. We are also going to talk about our other group that we normally do, Pathfinder. We took a session off so that we could have a guest game master come in and do a one-shot of Call of Cthulhu. So we'll talk a little bit about that. There's your old Call of Cthulhu sheet right there. So we're going to talk about both those things, and at the end I usually talk a little bit about video game stuff. So, so for the first edition campaign, where we had left off, our adventurers were getting ready to enter the Temple of Elemental Evil. There's your visual right there. There's your module, the super module, T1 through 4. And they had approached the crumbling tower ruins that are at one corner of the temple, and there was a door there, and that was where they're going to make their entry. So at the beginning of this session, they do that. They make entry, and of course it is an ambush. The guards have been waiting for them, and have prepared quite appropriately. So there are a lot of guards in here. There are a lot of archers, both bowmen, crossbowmen, etc. And they are being led by a couple of sergeants and a lieutenant, and etc. So the party, tactics-wise, did a very good job, because they fell back and used the doorway as a choke point to try and draw the enemies out through the door, so they could kind of pick them off one or two at a time, and it worked a little bit, but of course there were sergeants and so forth barking orders at the guards, and they took necessary steps to try and mitigate the losses. The party was going through quite a few of these guys. And so the bosses maneuvered, did some maneuvers and things, and took cover and all that. And the party ended up having to go inside, and they started taking some damage, some pretty decent damage. A few party members did. And right about that time is when the giant ravens decided to make their moves from the rafters to come down and join the fray. That complicated things considerably for our adventurers. Our one gnome friend, the illusionist assassin, he got taken out of the fight not once, not twice, I think maybe 3 times. He had to keep getting healed because he kept going down. And at one point, which will now be famous, he in his best, our player, Brad, in his best gnome voice, said something to the effect of, "This is bullshit," as he was going down, and there was raucous laughter everywhere. He did it a lot better than I do. So anyway, it's one of those you had to be there. So, but they ended up winning. They ended up prevailing, and the leader of the guard had retreated back into another room, and after they defeated everything else, they went looking for him and they couldn't find him. And through much searching and so forth, they finally found a trap door that apparently, there's no other explanation that they can come up with, he went down the trap door. But they were fairly depleted, spells-wise and hit points and so forth, and they were laden now with a lot of loot, a lot of gear that they had to sell and so forth. And when they opened that trap door, they smelled, like brimstone and bullshit. Basically, is how they describe, how I described it to them, that they smelled brimstone coming up and ofoul and the smell of rot and that kind of stuff. And then they, of course, categorized it in general as bullshit. So they decided, well, we're going to go back to town and sell some of this stuff and heal and rest before, because there was, I think we counted, there was 41 bad guys in that room. If you count the giant ravens, it was 41. I think it was 41 or 42 bad guys that they had to go through. So they decided to go back and regroup. So they get back to Nulb, which is the little crappy town that is right there by the temple, and it is a source of vile villainy, and they know this, so they don't plan to stay there very much. But as you've seen in the prior segments to this, there is the famous Pete, the bard, that our little gnome friend has felt like he needed to. Pardon me. Sorry about that, folks. I felt a coughing fit coming on. But like I said, I'm just getting over getting sick. And like an abject moron, I started doing a video and didn't have any water or anything to rescue me if that happened. So I had to stop the video there, and we're starting back up here. So where I left off was we were talking about them getting back into Nulb, and their plan was to go right through, get back to Hamlet, to where they could do all their transactions and so forth. They didn't want to stay in Nulb because they, obvious reasons, it's kind of a crap hole. But they stopped for some reason. They stopped because of Pete, the bard. And as you know, by the way, I'm going to put the link below for the very first video in this series when I started the first edition campaign. If you want to go back, if you're new and you want to go back and follow the story from the get-go, I'm putting the link below so you can follow it and start, and then you can follow the gaming vlogs chronologically from there to get caught up on the story. Anyway, so Pete is there, and as you know, our one gnome has been terrorizing him. Our chaotic, neutral, leaning evil assassin illusionist has been terrorizing Pete from town to town. He has been literally chasing this dude and terrorized. That's the best way to put it. To the point where Pete had started going crazy because he couldn't get away from this guy, and he was penniless because our gnome friend had Hingle McCringleberry had been terrorizing him, and he didn't really have any money. He didn't have his instrument anymore to play. He'd been injured, and so forth. And so he's there in Nulb just begging for money and so forth. And of course, our little gnome friend has to go over there and continue messing with him, to the point where our dwarven barbarian, Jamie, she kind of likes Pete. She's never had a problem with him, and she actually gives Pete some money. She gives him some gold to help him because she's starting to feel sorry for him and everything. And he runs into the tavern to get a bath and get food. He's starving and everything else, and so off he goes. And while all this is going on, at some point, Hingle, our one gnome friend, I happen to do a random check or whatever, and someone was attempting to pick his pocket, because Nub is that kind of place. And I had him roll a wisdom check to see if he noticed and so forth. And he rolled successfully, so he noticed it. And so he just turns around and just starts stabbing this little dude trying to pick his pocket. Little 0-level thief guy, you know. And he's just like, I keep stabbing him, I'm stabbing him. And he's role-playing it because his character had almost died 3 times at the tower. And by the way, they had killed his dog. That was the one casualty from, he had a guard dog. And at the tower, his dog got killed. So he's like, I almost died 3 times today. You killed my dog. And he's just like stabbing this dude, you know, and making a spectacle. Everybody's seeing it. But he's making so much noise that Pete is upstairs taking a bath. He's having a bath. And he hears this all too common to him gnome getting angry. And it causes him to have like a flashback, PTSD, and he's thinking, "Oh crap, that gnome's gonna come up here," and I roll for it, and Pete, you know, basically decides to jump up out of the bathtub and jump out the window, thinking that the gnome is gonna come up and hurt him some more. And so as I describe it, here goes Pete as he grabs the remaining coin that the dwarf had given him. He grabs that and jumps out naked and goes running into the forest. That's the last they saw of Pete. In this section, they see him running off, you know, trying to get away naked, and that's how they left. No, they decided that we're getting the hell out of here. I did have them see a fortune teller while they were there, Madame Dahlia, and she read their fortunes and so forth, and that may or may not come into play later on, because I know these guys are probably going to watch this video, so I'm not going to talk too much about that. So they go back to Hamlet, and that's the end of that particular session. We started up the last session that we did. We started up. They were in Hamlet. They were deciding what they were going to do as far as either going back to the temple and so forth. And they realized they needed to go to Devers, the main town of Devers, to train. A couple of them needed to train for levels and so forth. So they head back to Devers, and were also deciding that they really needed a magic user in their party, because they felt that was where they were weak. They don't have a magic user. They have very few spellcasters, and so they travel. And then, as a side note, we have best way to put it is, we have a nymphomaniac female dwarf barbarian in the group, Jamie, being played by a woman. So it's not one of those things where a guy is doing this. No, this is a woman that's role playing this, and so she has been, for lack of a better term, she has been banging everything she finds, having sex with. And so I had been keeping track, rolling to see if she happens to get pregnant. And so at one point, she had convinced another party member, our druid, because he was very timid, that she wanted to have a tryst with him and the barmaid Muffins, as she's known in Hamlet. Our barbarian decided she wanted to have a tryst with the two of them. A little three-way thing going on there. So they did. And I had been checking for pregnancies and so forth, because that can happen, and I don't give it a very high percentage, but it can happen. And so I first checked for Muffins, and I had rolled, and I rolled a 97, and basically what I was going to say was 5%, 95 or higher, that's a pregnancy. And I rolled a 97, and I had someone witness it. And, of course, our druid, Perky is his name. He, of course, is the father. And then I had our dwarf, I rolled for her to see if she would get pregnant. And on the fourth roll, because she'd had very many, several encounters, and I rolled on the fourth roll, a 100 on the nose. And I had somebody witness that. And she counted down her encounters, and the fourth one down was that three-way encounter with our druid and Muffins. So, all done by the dice, our druid impregnated 2 females in the same encounter. It happened, folks. Random number generators, but nevertheless. So, on this next session, we basically, I had said that he got a note in Devers from Muffins saying, "Hey, you need to come back to Hamlet. We gotta talk." And because it had been several weeks since that, and she had started having morning sickness and so forth, and she had gone to see a cleric. But at the same time, the dwarf was having morning sickness, and they were all witnessing this, and they couldn't figure out what the heck was going on. And she sought out a cleric in Devers who gave her the same news, that she did, divinization or whatever, and figured out, oh yeah, you're with child or whatever. And so during this, we dropped the bomb on him that, yeah, you fathered 2 children, 2 pregnancies, same exact encounter, dude. So he's dealing with that. That's a whole side thing going on. But anyway, so they're traveling, and at some point during the travels, I'm just going to hit the highlights here. I roll for random encounters, and if I roll a 1 in 12, I roll a 12-sided. If I roll a 1 in 12, that's a random encounter. And at one point, they had a random encounter with a pseudo-dragon. Now, in the first edition Dungeon Master's Guide, there is random encounter tables. And so I rolled it, and it was a pseudo-dragon, with little dragon that's suitable for, being a familiar. And I came up with a percentage. It was our gnome illusionist was the one that was trying to communicate with it. And they're not evil creatures. They're neutral, I believe. Neutral/good. So I had a percentage for him to roll, or I rolled it actually. I rolled it to see if the pseudo-dragon would be open to the idea of becoming a companion. And I rolled a 98, I think it was. That's how I do my rolls. The higher the better. And so I think I gave a 10% chance, and I rolled a 98. So he agreed to become his companion. So now he has, as a familiar, he has a pseudo-dragon. So that also happened. And so I'm playing the part of the pseudo-dragon whenever there's conversation going on, and because they can communicate telepathically. Pseudo-dragons have that ability. So that happened, and then at another point, another encounter, our ranger, who likes to scout around the camp areas, found a were-tiger that was sleeping in its den, and he unfortunately did not. He failed his check to see if he was quiet enough not to wake it up, and he failed, and he woke it up. And of course, it's chasing him down, and it bites him. They end up killing it and so forth, but he's bitten. And 3 days had gone by, and he didn't seek trying to get any kind of cure or anything. So now he is going to be a lycanthrope. And I haven't decided yet how I'm going to play. I don't know which particular lycanthrope he's going to end up turning into, etc. So those things happened, and then at one point they decided they wanted to find this magic user to go with them, and I had arranged for our trainer in Devers, the illusionist trainer, the main guy there. He says he knows of somebody who does freelance work, and she frequently does tasks for another wizard, another magic user near Greyhawk, the city of Greyhawk, and they decide to go try and find her there, and they do. So she ends up joining their party. And so this session, there was a lot of combat during travel with random encounters and so forth. And interesting things happening, and the whole pregnancy thing and all that. And at one point, they even heard that Pete was had ran off to another town called Sobanwich, and they made a side trip to go there to try and the gnome wanted to mess with him some more, but he now has protection. A paladin by the name of Gentry has taken him in and decided that if he wants to play there at Sobanwich as the bard, he is going to protect him and not let, after he told him of the terrorizing that he was being subjected to, Gentry has decided to protect him. And so our group was smart enough at this point not to attack Gentry, the paladin, the high-level paladin. So they decided to leave that alone for now. But I have a feeling that based upon some of the things that went down after that, some conversations at the Thieves Guild and so forth, that Hingle is not going to let that go for very long. He's going to figure something out. Anyway, so that's going on. They found the magic user's name is Desdemona, and they found her at Meslow's. He is a high-level magic user that sends her to try and find rare items for him for experiments and so forth. And they convinced him that if they let her go with them, they would bring him his laundry list of stuff that he's looking for. So I wrote up this laundry list of stuff, and I gave it to them. They took it with them. Otherwise, I would have it to read off. But there was crazy stuff. I just came up with stuff off the top of my head. Different body parts from different creatures. I think an owlbear beak. There was, I'm trying to remember, samples of black pudding, just a bunch of different stuff that I had put on the list for them to bring back to him for a reward, and in return he would allow Desdemona to go with them. So now they have a magic user in their party, NPC as it is, but they do have one, and they just have to try and find these parts. So now they have several different storylines going. They've got of course, the Temple of Elemental Evil. They've gotten word that the city of Orlane is looking for adventurers to investigate something. Another city down by Jamie, the dwarf's hometown, not too far from there, of Saltmarsh. There's been reports of weird things going on there. You have the body parts laundry list for Meslo that's going on. You still have their family members are still, as far as they know, being held captive by what are known as the Watchers. And so that whole storyline is still going in the background as well. They haven't chose to do anything with that recently. So all these different things, and then of course the pregnancy issue going on for our druid friend. So that's all happening in the first edition campaign. And we're on hiatus now because I'm going to be going to GaryCon, so I have to prepare for that. And so we're going to be on hiatus there. And two of our players are getting married in real life, so we're on like a month hiatus. And like I said, in addition, our regular Pathfinder group, we decided to do a one-shot of Call of Cthulhu. And there's my Call of Cthulhu character sheet there. And I had never played it before. It is a modern-day role-playing game with the mythos of Cthulhu as the basis for the world. And I was playing a security professional, a bodyguard, lack of a better term. And we were on a ship, and my job was to get the protectee, the person I was protecting, get her to her family back in England on this ship. And then there were other people on board that were there for various reasons and so forth. And of course, there's a distress call or a distressed ship, a ghost ship basically, spotted, and maritime rules dictate that, you have to render aid if you're in the area or so forth. So our ship has to go and try and investigate. I decide we start to go over to the other ship to start to investigate. I see, you know, indications of bullshit, like I think there was a severed hand or something like that. And my job to protect my protectee is basically, okay, I'm going back and I'm going to protect her and make sure that whatever is harming stuff here doesn't come over here and harm her. So I go back there. There was one other female that was on board, and at some point she gets attacked and wounded brutally. And so my character's move is he wants to get them to a secure part of the boat as quick as possible. So he gets his protectee and he gets her, the injured one, both of them, and gets them to the engine room, thinking, well, hopefully there's secure doors. He can secure them in there, and if need be, if he has to go out and face whatever this thing is, he will do that. And my character does that. I manage to wound it. It's invisible, but I figure out where it's at. I take a shot. I actually hit it. I wound it, and of course it turns out, and he eviscerates me. I'm dead. Apparently in Call of Cthulhu, people don't live very long. And you also have a madness scale, a sanity scale. And you lose sanity points, and you start becoming insane. So we had a character, one of our party, that went insane, or almost completely insane. I died. There was a couple others, I think, that died. But the bottom, in the end, was we were successful in what they were doing, and they killed this creature. That was we had made I ended up having to play the first mate. Once my character died, he let me play the first mate. And we called for the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard came. We had to convince them there was some crazy creature on board and so forth. And in the end, the remaining characters did manage to kill it and make it to England and so forth and so on. Unfortunately, my character did not. So it was a lot of fun, though. It's kind of like, the way I pictured it was, it's kind of like one of those mystery dinner things, or mystery theater. You go and you role play some murder mystery or something like that. That's the kind of level of fun that this was. I don't know if they're all that short or if they're long campaigns and so forth, but it was a lot of fun. We had a ball. So so that happened, Call of Cthulhu. And then on the video game stuff, started playing Mass Effect, the first one, because I have never played any of the Mass Effect games. And the new Mass Effect is going to be coming out. And I know there's no way I'm going to be caught up, but I want to be at least familiar with the lore and enough of it to where if I decide to just jump into the new one and play that, I won't feel like a complete noob. So I've been playing the first one, and it's a lot of fun. Of course, it's a BioWare title, and anything by BioWare back in those days, was golden. So that's what's been happening. Picked up this on an auction online. This is the D&D Gazetteer called Dawn of the Emperors. And the reason I picked this up, it was a really good deal. It was $40, including shipping. And I looked at other prices, and that was very, very fair. And it's complete and everything. And the reason that I kind of jumped on it was this has rules for flying combat. And in case, depending on how long this first edition campaign goes, that may come into play. And so I was looking forward to that. Anyway, so that is the gaming vlog. The first edition campaign is going awesome. Now they have a full party. They've even got a magic user, so we'll see what they're going to do with that. And all the different storylines that are going on. But we won't find out till after the hiatus. So GaryCon will be coming up. I'll try to do another. Now that I'm getting ready for GaryCon, I'll try to squeeze in a couple of videos here and there. And I do plan to do Facebook Live from GaryCon. So if you're not following me on Facebook, I suggest you do, because when we get to GaryCon, that's how I'm going to be doing a lot of that. I'll just do Facebook Live there. So anyway, that's it, guys. We'll catch you on the flip side.